Let's talk about what's going on in the economy. So Federal Reserve Chief Jerome Powell came out yesterday. The much anticipated speech that the Fed chief was going to give was going to, in fact, lay out a roadmap for the economy over the next year to 2 years and these interest rate hikes that the federal government would put in place. Now, this is the federal benchmark rate. This is the rate, the interest rate by which all other rates follow. So your credit cards, your mortgages, your car loans, everything follows what Fed Chief Jerome Powell said yesterday. And it was so funny to watch because stocks this morning and last night surged like crazy. They went up bonkers. Everything was like, wow, this is crazy. This is great news. He told us he was going to do this months ago. Like this was all coming. Like, did they not believe him? Jonathan Farrell.
No, I think what they thought was that it would be a full 0.5% and that would put a screeching halt on lending and business. And that would sort of curb the growth that we've seen in certain areas, such as housing, appliances, vehicles, where those things, you just can't keep them in stock right now. So the expected interest rate hike was 0.5%. Since that was seen as an itty bitty baby step, but we only got 0.25%. They're like, phew, this is not going to slow down anything.
For a year at least.
Happy days are here again. Let's keep going out and selling some stuff, right?
Well, I mean, Jonathan Farrell, who's a brilliant reporter from Bloomberg, he tweeted about this. He said, I can't wrap my head around this. He said, why are stocks going up? And he asked for responses from his audience. He got like over 650 responses. He's like, I have no idea. Like, explain to me. Because all the markers point to a recession coming down the road. You're just kicking the football down. So either stocks are like, they're taking advantage of trying to make some profits now in the next, 8, 9, 10 months. But make no mistake about it. As the Fed chief laid out, 7 interest rate hikes coming this year. I mean, we are on the precipice, and it's not lost on a lot of economists. But if there's 7 at this tiny, tiny, tiny rate, right, it'll take us 4 to even get to 1%. But we saw what happened to the housing market with 1%. And 1% is
by many, by many estimates, even 1% is too low. So if we're not going, if we have 7 or 8 at 0.25%, we're not getting to that 3 or 4%. And I think that's what economists, not economists. I think people who are flying high on the hog right now and enjoying these low interest rates and enjoying how it is all right for some and hurting others, those are the people that we're super excited about these baby steps. Because if this is the increment at which we're moving, we're not going to get to that 3 or 4%. So it won't make lending harder, which means we can just keep creating money and it's fine. That's what it's not based on economics, darling. It's based on sentiment.
Well, okay, so the sentiment, yes. So stock market sentiment doing great yesterday. That's great. Everyone's happy, right? Happy times are here again. But the underlying fundamentals are scary as crap. I mean, a 1% increase for interest rates slows the housing market down to a screeching halt. Okay, remember what happened in the fall of 2019. The housing market with one little itty bitty increase came to a screeching halt. So happy times. People being able to increase their family's wealth by having a home where they can then, maybe have some appreciation and growth, take out some equity in their own personal finances, comes to a screeching halt, okay? Or if they wanted to sell their home, a difficult time to be able to sell your home, right? So you better plan now over the next few months if you want to get that going. If you're thinking about selling your home right now, listing your home, you're thinking about moving, do not wait a year. Do not wait a year when people can't qualify for mortgages because they've taken on too much debt. Their rent is too high. They don't have their dollar is not going as far. The inflation continues to go up, so the value of that dollar is much lower. All of these things factor into this.
Yes.
All of these things factor into this. We told you the story. 61% of Americans right now live paycheck to paycheck. That number is up. And because the value of the U.S. dollar is at the lowest point it's been in 40 years, that paycheck is even going nowhere nearly as far as it did just a few years ago.
I did listen to the call from between Jerome Powell and the media, and many in the media were saying, this is a disparity between all the money the government has and can create and all the money that the American people do not have and cannot create. And so Fed Chief Jerome Powell said, well, we are having a plan to shrink our $9 trillion asset portfolio. And this is a quote. He said, the shrink of the... Sorry, that didn't come out like words at all.
Take 2.
The shrinkage of the balance sheet might be the equivalent of another rate increase. That means if the government does not hold so much, in proportion to the American people who hold so little, then we can hold less. That disparity shrinks, right? And then that will stop creating inflation. So I felt like that was almost an admission that the government giving itself stuff creates inflation, which President Biden just last week said it doesn't, but it does.
Right. No, I mean, the White House talking point on all of this now is that it's Putin's price hike. What is it?
Putin's gas
price
tax.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's Putin's fault that you're paying more for gas. It's Putin's fault that you're paying more for,
Well,
your
Powell
home.
even did say, like, look, we were already on an upward trajectory for inflation, but then these current political events have made it worse. He didn't really go out of his way to blame Ukraine, but he did allude to it.
And he also didn't take the bait on talking about sanctions or anything else, but he did admit, Powell did admit, I thought it was a pretty interesting admission from him from a reporter asking him, did we move too slowly on this? And he said, look, hindsight, we don't have the benefit of hindsight, but yes, had we known that the headwinds we would face from both COVID and Ukraine and other issues or supply chain crunch, et cetera, we should have moved faster on these rate increases. So then why not move more quickly now? It's an admission that you're moving now quickly or slowly. Move quicker. James Bullard, who's one of the Fed chief board members, came out and said, dissenting voice, we need to do more now.
Yes.
He's one of the sort of dissenting members of the Fed, is saying like, hey, I don't agree with the Fed chief here. We need to move more quickly. But all signs are pointing towards a recession. Make no mistake about it, guys. And I thought it was an interesting take this morning. Not all of the media has their head buried in the sand. Listen to them discuss this idea of these red flags that are showing themselves for a recession. You heard it here. Pay attention to this and protect your family.
This moment, and they did manage to pull that off yesterday. Vince, I'll ask you, what are your expectations of a recession? Have they gone up in recent weeks because of what we've seen in Ukraine and what we've seen with oil prices and what we've seen with other commodity prices like wheat and palladium and nickel? Do you have more concerns that a recession has become more likely?
First of all, it's usually Goldilocks in the forecast. It's harder to get that in reality. And when you think about it, there's a number of major recession indicators that are flaring. We had a big run up in oil prices. We have a flattening in the yield curve. We have the Federal Reserve on move. There's only been one policy firming in the modern era that hasn't been associated with recession. And we don't have a whole lot of spare capacity. Typically, when the economy is working at or above its full employment, a recession is around the corner. So yes, I think recession risks are elevated. Probably on the order of a third to 40% over the, coming into next year.
So you heard it here.
Yeah.
Guys. I mean, don't bury your head in the sand for your own personal finances and your family right now. Think about, preparing for this. I mean, what can we do to prepare for a recession?
I think that the Fed knows that a recession is coming, and what they're trying to do is sort of like, they know we're falling. They want to place us down at the bottom, not let us fall to the bottom.
I'm telling you,
let me just put you there nicely because you're going to the bottom.
The people that are going to be hurt the hardest, though, like the pillow will not be there for the people that are not in Wall Street, that are not multimillionaires. It's going to be the average American who pays more. I mean, we see food shortages right now, more for gasoline.
Yes.
The U.S. dollar is not going as far. You're making less money. And so you're paying about $300 extra per month now just because of these inflationary numbers.
In fact, I think it was a CNBC reporter on the call who said, are we going to see more retirement people pull a Tom Brady and come out of retirement because Social Security has not kept up with inflation and people can't afford to live with these current inflationary. Now, Tom Brady, obviously, I think he can afford his gas bill, I would assume. So maybe he's not the best poster child for people coming out of retirement, but you get the joke.
How did he answer?
He just said, well, we hope that's not the case because we still have unemployment for people of working age, but we will keep an eye on it, basically.
He talked about the labor market being incredibly tight. He used the term excellent twice, referring to the labor market and talking about that. So, I mean, I haven't heard a Fed chief refer to like the labor market as excellent, maybe ever. So he did it twice. So I don't know. We'll see. Again, so many people decided that they're better off just not working right now. They don't want to work. They don't want to take these jobs. They would rather take their chances being a freelancer, doing contract work, working from home, but not working a 9 to 5. And you see, jobs right now, like people are still having a difficult time hiring.
Yes.
There are all sorts of incentives to try to get people hired. So it's just a really wacky time. But make no mistake about it, guys. Like a recession is on the calendar. Like we're getting warning signs of this now.
Right.
And prepare yourself. I think preparing yourself, making sure you have some money set aside if you can, making sure that some of the money that you do have set aside is not tied to the US dollar.
Yes.
Can be outside of the system as much as you can, whether it's in real estate or crypto or gold, silver. Silver, obviously, really cheap right now, relatively speaking. I mean, compared to gold. These sort of hedges against inflation, these hedges against recession are really, really powerful.
Well, not to toot our own horn, but this is a moment where we will tell you we have a Financial Freedom Academy, which is a course that helps you make sure that your family's assets are in things that are actually assets that will perform for you so that you don't have to perform yourself and take your butt to work every day. How can you make the things that you've got now work for you, right? And I always go back to this example of when our accountant and sort of mentor, Tom Wheelwright, went to Zimbabwe on a vacation, and he asked his tour guide, how did you survive when the government was printing money and your dollars or your whatever, I don't know the currency there, I'm sorry, your money became next to nothing? He said, well, anytime I did get paid, I would go out and buy a sheep or a goat or a cow or something that I knew would perform. How? Like milk, labor, whatever it is, right? So what do you have in your portfolio that is currently a sheep or a cow? Not literally, although literally would work too. Do you have a piece of real estate that will continue to perform when maybe your paycheck is worth less? Do you have a business that will continue to perform when your paycheck is worth less? Now is the time to go through, and you don't have to do it overnight. We teach you to do it one line item by line item, one thing at a time, either with your assets or your liabilities. While interest rates are low, you should be looking at your liabilities and saying, can I play the interest in time game, right? There are things you can be doing, but you have to be doing them all the time. And now it's never too late.
That's right. It's the Zimbabwe dollar, by the way.
Oh, it is $1. Okay.
Yeah, well, it's the Zimbabwean dollar. So that's what it's called. Zimbabwean dollar.
Cool.
If you like this content, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Also, we have a membership program. For the price of a cup of coffee once a month, you can support independent journalism just by going to morninginvest.com/join.
You get access to exclusive videos, plus the ability to join and chat with us live. We really appreciate your subscription, and you are supporting independent journalism.